Welcome in. The Second Cut podcast is live right after the conclusion of the Farmers Insurance Open to break down everything we saw this week and what it means moving forward. Greg DuCharme is here. Gregors, good to see you.
Boys, what a week. Just an incredible week of golf we got to see. It was really a joy to watch, and I'm really excited to break it all down with you guys.
Fresh off walking Torrey Pines South, Mark Immelman joins us. Thank you for hopping in so quickly, Mark.
Cheers. 1 week down, 22 to go for CBS. Yeah, look, it was incredible. The weather, I've never seen it this good for 4 days straight down here in San Diego. The course was immaculate. And gee, was speaking of immaculate, Justin Rose. Gosh, I mean, he was faultless almost.
I was waiting for the door to open, and it did not even crack a peep because Justin Rose has gone wire to wire. Justin Rose has won the Farmers Insurance Open by 7 shots, and quite honestly, it felt a little bit more than that. 68 and 70 on the weekend was all it took around the South Course to capture PGA Tour victory number, I believe that's number 13. Now, he won at the end of last year in Memphis, beating JJ Spawn in a playoff, and he adds his second title here at Torrey Pines. Mark, you were out there. You mentioned it was immaculate. Justin Rose was in complete control of his game throughout this entirety of the week.
It truly was. To lead wire to wire is so difficult. People would think that if you have the lead, well, that's what you're after, right? But the truth is, as you're playing with that lead, you're in this place where you want to attack, but you don't want to give up ground. And so you're sort of caught between one thing and the other. And oftentimes you'll see golfers sort of lose commitment some and then fall back, where he was just so resolute. I've known Justin Rose since he was a teenager. Gosh, I've given him golf lessons when he was like 19. And when he was out there, you would have sworn I had never met the guy because he was in his zone. He was so disciplined. The routine was, you could have put a stopwatch to it. It was so precise. I can't recall. He hardly ever hit the wrong shot. And I was just telling Frank Nobilo, we were driving back to the hotel together. And on 18 there, we're coming down 18. It's a wonderful finishing hole the way it's framed. And he decides to lay up because he's got the big lead. And I'm looking right down his line. I'm like 30 yards from him. And, for a golf swing junkie like me, I saw the target line, and then I saw the golf club swing back and arc off it. It arced in, it left on the beautiful arc, exited beautifully, and this ball took off on the line and did not deviate. I mean, it was like a laser beam, honestly. It took off, fell out the air perfectly on the number, and I was like, this is a guy at the height of his powers. And whatever he found this week, the way he's applying himself, short of injury and bad putting form or something, he's not going anywhere. I'm sorry, this man at 40, whatever many years young he is, he showed something today to me that it was honestly a thrill. It was an honor to watch.
45 years young and still might be playing some of the best golf of his career, Greg. I mentioned it. He ended last season with a victory. He gets off to this season with another win. You see him get it going at Ryder Cups, and there is plenty of life left in this 45-year-old who said after the round, hey, he's still enjoying it. He's still working hard. He's still able and dedicated to working hard and starting to think it's not going to stop anytime soon.
It's an incredible story for so many reasons. I mean, it's been, he said, 27 years of professional golf. And to just keep on going. I mean, at the beginning of the year, Mark, of course, didn't miss a chance to bring it up before we even went on air. He was my regression candidate for 2026. And the reason for that is he put together some top-end performances last year. And the other stuff surrounding that, the consistency was lacking. And I'm thinking, well, you're 45 now. You're probably not going to finish second in the Masters. And you're probably not going to win a playoff event. I definitely wasn't thinking he was going to win at Torrey Pines. So that, he proved me wrong almost right away. Really, incredible how he's able to overcome these things. And I'm wondering now, thinking back on the year, the performance in Memphis, the performance in the Ryder Cup, and now this performance, are we going to get a consistent Justin Rose? He's won at Aronimink before. You have a PGA championship there. He's finished second 3 times at the Masters. I mean, you could have a huge year out of him, the way that he looked today. It's hard to imagine a guy going out and dominating a tournament like this at 45 years old. It was Friday night. We were sitting here, and it was like, you could see it. Maybe it's not over a 4-shot lead, but it felt over, and it was just remarkable.
It is interesting, Mark, because you've got a situation where you've got to play the South Course twice on the weekend with this historically large lead, one that you aren't supposed to give away, and you've got to go out there and keep your wits about you. You've got to go shot by shot. Obviously, the experience Justin Rose has been in, his resume is fantastic. He's been in a ton of these situations, but to go out and execute, and never once did I think he was not going to win this golf tournament on the weekend.
I know. I mean, how often are you ever in that mindset when it was not Tiger Woods or perhaps Scotty Scheffler? To me, as I was thinking about what we got to see in person, as it relates to like some of the great performances ever. Clearly, this is a major championship venue. The greens were firm and fast. The rough was punitive in spots, and the greens are tiny, right? So you've got to be very precise. And if you're hitting 70% of the greens in regulation, you're doing work. But to do that, you had to drive the ball in the fairway. And here's Rose. He's longer than he's ever been. He's driving the ball so accurately, very little sideways pattern on the thing. And then from there, was able to play some offense on iron shots. And I cannot remember the entire final round here. He didn't look like he misstruck a ball ever. Everything came out of the center of the club face every single time. And if the shot was calling for a fade, it faded. If it needed a draw, it drew. I mean, it was virtuoso, really. And almost to a place where, if you watch Scotty play, you almost don't watch him swing, but you just watch where the ball goes. But Scotty typically just goes left to right all the time and only draws the ball if he has to. Where Justin made Scheffler iron striking look like it was a symphony, because the golf swing was just so poised, so well timed, in balance every single time. It was, I mean, gosh, I'm at a loss for words to watch this guy around a difficult venue. Granted, there was no wind, because the wind, all bets are off. With a very light breezes, enough to kind of, get you questioning at times. He and Fuchs never made a wrong decision, and he executed every single time.
There was one shot, Mark, you mentioned that there was one shot today that just had me like, this guy's got it all. And you talk about Scheffler and the predominant fade. I think we see a lot of that on the PGA Tour now. But Rosie on number 8 today, nobody could get it on that back shelf and keep it there. So like if it got up on the second tier, it was going over the green. It was very difficult to get it on the right level. And he made like a video game decision and hits this sweeping draw in there that it looked on TV from the shot tracker like it started off the edge of the green and turned back in there, caught the slope, spun to the left, and he got it in there to like 9 feet and made it for birdie. It's like that's what you do in a video game to access a difficult hole location. And I didn't see him hit that shot all week. A ball with that much curve on it. And he does it on command on number 8 and makes birdie there. It's like, okay, this guy is feeling it.
Chalk one up, Mark, for the Thursday North Coursers. They've done it again. Justin Rose on Thursday started on the North Course, and he will end up being your champion.
Yeah, and for the fans watching this, thank you. I've just gone to my personal hotspot, because you would think we stay in these nice hotels, there'd be decent Wi-Fi. Well, there isn't. But yeah, to your point, I hope my service is better. And the North Course, with the conditions and how good the greens were so pure on the North. I would say the South were, as pure as I've seen them too. But the North course was there to be had. And even though it was long, the fairways were playing short. I mean, I chatted with Cameron Young. I went and watched him and Marco Penge play a little bit on the North course. And Cam makes eagle on the 1 par 5 in the back. And he walks up to the tee, and I'm standing there, and we catch up and all the rest of it. And I said to him, Cam, how firm is this place playing? And he looks at me, he goes, dude, I can hear my spikes in the ground when I'm walking down the fairways because you're almost having to dig the spikes. So it was a firm, fast golf course. It was no breeze, playing very easy. All the par 5s were reachable. And I hate to sound like Bryson, but it was almost like these guys were playing past 68. And so Rose was out there and did Rose work and opened up with a lead, and he just never relinquished from there.
Never once relinquished it. Wire victory for Justin Rose at Torrey Pines. The rest of that final group had a lot to play for, Greg. Ryo Hisatsune is the man who makes birdie on the 18th hole to get himself into a three-way tie for second. He had 4 rounds in the 60s this week, which, as I'm scrolling through the leaderboard, not many guys in the field can say that. We've seen him at times get hot and go on these little 2 or 3 week runs at a time. Maybe this sparks another one for Ryo.
Perhaps. He's definitely coming into his own as a PGA Tour player. This is his best finish of the year. He finished 44th at the American Express, but definitely had some good runs in 2025. He did have 4 top 10s last year. I don't think they were quite on a golf course like this, although maybe there's some similarities. He was tied 10th at the Mexico Open. Another golf course where you have a lot of long irons in there. Tied 4th at the Valspar, tied 5th at the Valero, and tied 6th at the Charles Schwab Challenge. Probably limited comparison other than Mexico there. I find his game to be interesting. Compared to Justin Rose, it looks like he's a wild player. He hit some tee shots that had a lot more curve on it than Rosie. Likes to draw the ball, hit some shots extremely high in the air. But all in all, this is a really, really strong fight. It was a strong front 9. He hit the ball really well for the week. He got some putts to go when he needed to. Impressive. And T2's big for him. He can get on another one of those top 10 streaks this year. It'll go a long way.
Yeah, the top 10s on the PGA Tour are critical to continue to get you starts. So he's starting to solidify his spot in the Aon Swing 5, which would get him into the next 2 signature events. But Mark, from a statistical standpoint, what stands out to me is how well-rounded he was this week. Top 25 in all 4 of the strokes gained categories. Obviously, we don't have the data, the shot length data from the North course, but this is a very solid outing for Ryo to start off his 2026.
Truly is. Look, I was impressed with the way he played today. As Greg rightly points out, it was a bit ragged in spots, but before this week, his best finish on tour was 3rd. So he was lining up because you knew Justin was winning. So these guys were in a battle for 2nd. And so there was pressure for guys that aren't in this position very much. And he showed up, and he showed some gumption coming down the stretch. Really, that up and down he had on 18 was classy. It was so good. And going after 18 green, I don't have the numbers on me, but I had him for 258 over the water into a breeze. And he's between 7 wood and 3 wood, and it's a hurting breeze. And he goes to 3 wood, and Jim and Trevor had the call, and I wanted to pop in going, this lie in the fairway is really tight. And, you'd rather go with 7 wood to kind of dig it out there. But if you spin one up against the breeze, it's in the billabong short of the green. So he's got 3 wood off this tight lie into a quartering breeze off the left, and he just hits it on the button. Back bunker, you're looking at a slope and water, and he rides the ridge, curls it down off the hill to about 6 feet. It was high class. And when you have Trevor Immelman, my brother, who's a former President's Cup captain, actually speaking, get this, because Trevor sort of keeps stuff close to his vest, right? When he's speaking on international television going, we've got our eye on him for the President's Cup team, the international team, then this guy's real. And I was impressed today. I
heard that little note, caught me off guard just a bit. The other man in that final group, Mark, is Joel Dahmen, who did not have the day that he wanted. It was a 1 over 73. He salvages the week with a birdie on 18, so he does finish inside the top 10. He's already in Phoenix for next week, so this is going to get him into the Cognizant. So a couple more starts for Dahmen, who needs all the FedEx Cup points that he can get.
Mina's muting my mic.
Mina and Mark are in a mute battle right now, and we're all losing it. Try again, Mark.
Yeah, take two. Take three, actually, Mina. It's a different Joel Dahmen watching him play today than the Joel I've seen in the past, because he was very, very singular. He was out there. He had his sort of eyes in the lane. Ordinarily, he can get a little sort of, dazed and confused and looking around the place, and he sort of gets a little mopey at times. And life was hard in the final group around a hard golf course, and he was very accurate rounds 1 through 3. But today he was a bit nervous. You could see that, but he didn't seem to lose focus, and he certainly didn't lose his attitude when things were getting hard. And to me, this is sort of the most impressive Joel Dahmen I've seen. Clearly, he's talented, but I think sometimes the emotions and the mental aspect of it all sort of got in his way. He was all business today, and good on him, because he grinded hard for that top 10 finish, which gets him into the Cognizant down the way. So it's a good job, and he's playing well. He said to me, he feels like he found something last week, and he continued it this week. And so now we'll sort of see how he got the sponsor's invitation for Phoenix next week. So we'll see how that goes around a place where he's been okay.
The interesting thing about Joel Dahmen having success, Greg, around Tory Pines is just kind of how much shorter he is than everybody else out there. If you look at it from a driving distance standpoint, he doesn't clear 300 yards, but he's quite accurate. He hits over 70% of his fairways, and that's kind of the game that he has to play. He's got to play out of the short grass. We heard him during a walk and talk yesterday, kind of joking a little bit that he's significantly shorter than 45-year-old Justin Rose, but I'm sure that weighs on him just a little bit. And he also did mention those nerves. Hey, I was nervous for the first couple holes. I made a birdie, and it got me going. So he's been very candid about the state of his game, both mentally and physically.
Yeah, always is. And again, it is a tough challenge when you're playing from where he's playing from compared to 45-year-old Justin Rose, who's also in the fairway as well. But you look at the first 3 rounds, he hit 11 or 12 fairways in all 3 of them. He only missed 5 fairways in the first 54 holes. That makes things a lot easier and allows him to play to his strengths. He puts up some really good iron numbers through his career. And especially recently, his iron play just looks great week in and week out. And it's pretty good. He's pretty good with long irons as well. But all of a sudden today, you lose a little bit of the accuracy off the tee. He only hits 7 of 14 fairways, and the game becomes a whole lot more difficult. And he actually did pretty well to find 11 greens in regulation. So that is the challenge. And then, what really highlights those nerves is what happens on the greens. Where yesterday he only has 24 putts, makes well over 100 feet, 129 feet, in fact, of putts made. And today it goes all the way up to 30 putts, and you only make 44 feet. That's what happens on Sunday when you start getting nervous. Every putt looks a lot more difficult to make. But all in all, this is a good fight, and top 10 at Torrey for Joel is a very impressive feat.
Round of the day goes to one Pierceson Coody, who shot a 7 under 65, the only 65 that was out there on this Sunday. And I look at what Coody's been able to do not only this week, but also to start this season, Greg. I mean, he was going back and forth between Korn Ferry and the PGA Tour last year with solid results in both areas, but he has now started T13 at the Sony, T18 at the American Express, and now he's going to get a T2 at Torrey Pines.
And we talked about this on Tuesday, Rick. Those 2 venues before, I don't think fit his game nearly as well as this does. you may not realize this because he was splitting time, as you said, last year. He ended up leading the year in strokes gained off the tee. And I kind of wondered if that was just because he played a few events and, played in some weaker field strength events, maybe on weaker golf courses, because there are big asterisks next to that. Well, he comes out here to Torrey Pines, and, we back him for that reason because of his strong driving statistically, but you wonder if it's going to hold up at Torrey Pines. What does he do this week? He leads the field in strokes gained off the tee. So, yes, it does pay off. Yes, this kind of golf course suits his game better. And everything that we've seen from him through the fall and the first two events in 2026 this proves to me that it's real, right? It translated, and it makes it feel very sticky to me. And I'm very excited to see where this trajectory continues to go for Pierceson Coody.
If you look at that scorecard, he ended each of his nines with a birdie streak. He birdied 7, 8, 9. He birdied 16, 17, and 18. Mark, the most exciting thing for me about Pierceson Coody is the natural progression. Every year he gets better. There's this pedigree that he's got in the family. There's this pedigree that he's got from the University of Texas. He feels like a professional very early in his career, and now he's starting to reap a lot of those benefits.
You hit the nail on the head there, Rick. Look, the family is like, they're blue bloods in golf, with Grandpa Charlie winning the Masters, and his dad was a really good player, Pierson's dad, that is, and he's got the twin brother Parker, and they sort of drive each other along, and he did come out of the University of Texas, and the word was this was a can't-miss kid. And he sort of took his lumps a little bit as a young professional, but there's no doubt he's a whole lot more mature than what he was just a few seasons ago. And maybe some Corn Ferry time sort of, I don't want to say put him in his place, but when you come out with everyone's expectations heaped on your shoulders, that can go one of two ways, right? And it went the wrong way for him a bit. But I will say this, I didn't see any of his round today, but I watched him play one time at the Colonial a couple seasons ago, and he was in the mix. I was suitably impressed. A well-organized golf swing, powerful, man. And there in Texas, it was sort of breezy, and he hit the ball straight through the wind every single time. So he's got all the tools, and I think he's beginning to grow into all of this expectation and this promise that he's had throughout his career.
Well, without a victory, the first three starts of 2026 could not have gone any better for Pierceson Coody, who's got 3 top 20s and just is going to continue to chug along. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use the grid and the one and done to talk more about some players. But before we move on, Greg, is there anybody else or anything else that jumped out at you from Torrey Pines this week? Maybe a player or something of that nature that you want to chat about?
Oh, so many things, Rick. So many things. I'd just like to give a shout out to Tony Finau. It's great to see him back. His form has looked just awful lately, and it hasn't really matched up ever since he got hurt. Remember last year at the beginning of the year, there were live rumors, which obviously were not true, but also he had a little operation on his knee. And since, he just has not looked the same. And he comes out there this week and makes a hole-in-one on Friday, which was sweet, and plays a great weekend, 71-66 to finish T11. I think Tony Finau is worthy of a shout-out. Obviously, it's a course he's played great at in the past, but very impressive. I didn't see this coming from him.
Yeah, Tony Finau closes with a 66. Go ahead, Mark.
I'd love to add something there real fast, and then you can pull up the grid. But one, I've said this before, and I say this every year we come here, I still take great umbrage with all of the folks in the social media sphere who say that Torrey Pines South is not a good golf course. It is a legitimate golf course, and you're not going to fake your way around here. So it always produces a really good champion. So that's one. And then two, look, a lot of the story this week was Brooks Koepka. And I had like a 5-10 minute chat with him on Saturday morning, and he seems like a different guy. Really relaxed, really chilled out. Said he had a great time. I said to him, so what were your expectations? And he said, really? I mean, I wanted to play well, but just getting 4 competitive rounds under my belt because I've had so much time off And so I smiled, and I'm like, well, you got that going for you. And he goes, yeah, it's a job well done. So, I was sort of toying with the idea of Brooks and one and done next week, even though he was atrocious on the greens. There's a lot to like about Brooks right now, and he's all in on the PGA Tour.
Atrocious indeed. He lost more than 7 strokes to the field, dead last of anybody who made the cut. 5.5 of those he lost on Saturday alone. Not very good. Speaking of not very good, our grid for the week was not very good. Mina, what do we have for this week? I think we cashed a couple of matchups. Greg, you and I talked about Hideki over Ludwig because that was done and dusted on Friday evening. So, Mark, congratulations. Ryan Gerard continues his great play. A T11 this week. That was plenty good to beat Taylor Pendrith, who did not make the cut.
Yeah, Ryan's good, man. I tried to go and watch him play on maybe Thursday or Friday. Sadly, I didn't because I was going to get some golf swing footage, but I got some good stuff anyway. But Gerard's for real. I'm all on the Ryan Gerard train for 2026 and beyond.
We did have a couple of, quote, close calls, considering Justin Rose won by 7 shots, but we did have a couple outrights that finished inside the top 5. Greg, you had Jake Knapp, who finished in a tie for 5th, closing with a 67. He has started off his 2026 in very solid fashion, but everybody ran into the buzzsaw that is Justin Rose.
Yeah, look, 15 under gets the job done at Torrey Pines quite often.
Most weeks.
Right, most of the time. So he played great. It was a really strong finish for him. 5 birdies in his last 6 holes. Also had a bogey in there as well. But I really thought that the distance, I thought the weather this week was really going to help the longer hitters. And Rose played perfect. I wouldn't consider him to be a bomber, but a lot of these guys like Knapp and Coody and, even like a Goddard, a lot of these guys did perform very well. It was advantageous to have some clubhead speed. So very impressed with Jake Knapp. Also, what he did on the greens beyond just, that combination is lethal. He was 6th in strokes gained putting for the week. He seems to understand how to putt these tricky Poana greens. So, yeah, good on you, Jake Knapp. That was awesome.
He's in the field for the Phoenix Open next week. Also, Maverick McNeely on my grid. He finished 10th, Mark. He birdied 4 of his first 5 holes, and I thought he had a chance to be maybe the winner without Justin Rose, but he stalled out after that. Outside of that, I love, speaking of progression, love the way that a now healthy Maverick McNeely adds things to his game seemingly all the time. Used to only be a guy with a great putting prowess and needed that to get hot, to have a good week and to contend. No longer. He's such a better, well-rounded player now than he was a couple of years ago.
Yeah, he's long. He putts fantastically. And he's cerebral, he does all the right things. And maybe I'm showing my cards, but I've used him in one and done at Pebble Beach before because he knows the place so well. And Maverick in California is a thing. So I was burned then because he withdrew with injury. But I'm considering him for Pebble Beach because on Poana greens, he's as good as anybody.
That he is. Now, I will update you on the latest one and done standings. And as I like to do, we are going to start at the bottom. And unfortunately for you, Greg, we're going to start with you. $112,000 for the year. That is the total that you had prior to the week. You went with Max Homa, and he returned you the same amount of money as if you would have gone with me.
Maybe next week I'll go with you, Rick. Maverick McNeely had a little bit of a two-way miss going on Sunday off the tee. A lot of misses left and right. That's partly why he cooled off. I feel like with my one and done selections right now, I just have a two-way miss going. I'm like all over the board. I look at my lists, all my paperwork that I have, all the guys that I like, and if there's 10 guys, 8 of them are in the top 30, and I'm picking the one of the guys that's not. It's just It's really hurting right now. Because I look at this week, I had a really good week. I was on Coody and Knapp and you had Goddard and Hideki, all these guys. I was Cam Young, who was in 22nd. All these guys I really liked. Even Patrick Rogers finished tied 27th. And I go with Max Homa. Proclaim him back. And he's clearly not.
I'm sorry, Greg. It was the good news is there's plenty of plenty of golf still to be played.
There's plenty.
Mina and Mark both went with Jason Day, $41,760. Mina goes to $374,000. Mark goes to $647,000. And Mark, this started out really well, 67 for Jay Day on Thursday, and then it just kind of got stuck in neutral around a golf course that was pretty gettable this week.
Yeah, look, it wasn't just Mina and me. It was Mina, me, and AI that all went with Jason Day this week because everything fit. And I was sort of surprised. But, you talk to those medium irons that he said early in the week that he was struggling with, the 4, 5, and 6 iron or whatever it was. You were having a lot of those sorts of irons into greens, and the greens were small. And he shot his low round on the north course. And then from there on the south course, you get tripped up if you're missing with those sorts of clubs. And with heavy rough around greens and firm greens with, a little piranha in them, you're not going to chip and putt all day long. So I think the medium iron sort of caught up with Jay Day this week.
Not just Mina, not just Mark, not just AI, but 18% of our one and done went with Jason Day. He was the most selected golfer, $41,760 for the 995 who picked Jason Day. 19 picks for Justin Rose, less than 1% getting the full payout for Rosie. But I hate to inform you guys that there is a new sheriff in town thanks to Jake Knapp's $370,000. I now sneak my way. Oh, wait a minute, Mina.
No, you don't. Easy,
Mina.
Tiger.
Oh, no. No.
Gee whiz.
I was doing my victory lap, Mina. No, I thought that the standings had me $5,000 ahead. I'm 37,000 behind.
Oh. You know what's really funny about that? Before Mark joined us, we were in the green room, if you will, and was it Siwoo Kim or was it Hisatsune's birdie,
Yeah.
Rick? And Rick said it cost Jay. Oh, it only cost him like $30,000.
Right. It only cost him $30,000.
It only cost you the lead.
Oh man, maybe that's where my brain was at. I'm sorry, Mark. The sheriff is back to just being a regular patrol guy. I'll get back out of that, but I owe you an apology. You still hold the lead by $37,000.
No worries, bro. I'm impressed at your Jake Knapp pull. Look, we all know he's talented. I didn't see that out of Jake Knapp this week. I really didn't. Maybe I should look at your guys' data metrics a bit more. But that was a good pull. I wish I had done that.
You should just listen. You should listen to me, Mark.
No, I see you pull your fantasy golfer of the week. You're doing pretty nicely there, I've noticed. So we're just got to get you picking the right one and done golfer every week.
Yep. It's a little two-way miss. That's all it is. Can't catch a break yet.
We'll get it dialed in. We just want to peak, 4 times a year, get our game in order, just like the pros do. We're headed to Phoenix next week. We're going to get a star-studded field, but before we do that, we've got another TGL matchup. Greg, you and I were talking about this before we started. They are this season, it flies by considering there's, only 15 matches. We're about halfway through right now. The standings are starting to solidify.
Yep. They're rounded into form for sure. You have Jupiter Lynx, who really struggled last year, is at it again, struggling this year and playing this week. Boston Golf Club, Boston Commons, however, is 2-0. They didn't win at all last year. So that's an interesting change of pace. What you also see is Atlanta, who's playing Jupiter Golf Links at 2-0. they have just continued to be a buzzsaw. The champs are formidable, to say the least. But yeah, it's 2-0. 0-2 is, they say it's a big deal in the NFL. It's a really big deal in TGL.
Even bigger with a fraction of the games. This is an early start, 5 p.m. Eastern on Monday the 2nd. Mark, we've got the lineups, and the Jupiter squad, they might need to just flip something. They got to figure this out here. They are going to roll out Akshay Bhatia. They're going to roll out Max Homa. They're going to roll out Kevin Kisner against the defending champs.
Okay, Tiger's going to do a little trading, just like Rory McIlroy did, because the difference with Boston Commons is the addition of Michael Thorbjornsen. Yeah, and so look, I love Kiz, but Tiger's going to get in the portal a little bit and see if he can beef up that lineup, because I feel like Atlanta are going to do the business.
Alongside Chris Gotterup and Lucas Glover is Billy Horschel, Greg, who we've talked about this before. Any kind of different format or team, like Billy is so engaged and cares so much about everything. You put him at the Zurich Classic, you put him in a President's Cup, you put him at TGL, he looks like prime Tiger. He loves this stuff so much, and I mean, listen, he's been fantastic.
Look, he ought to have a new TGL nickname. I think you call him Buzzsaw Billy, because he just catches fire every single time. It's interesting that both the 2-0 teams, they've got two things in common. One, Keegan Bradley referred to himself maybe in the Skins game as, an elite. What did he say? An elite exhibition golfer or something?
Is that what he said? Yeah.
And he's great in TGL, of course. You got Billy Horschel, who plays, like you just mentioned, along similar lines. And then they added young star. They upgraded their team with Thorbjornsen and Gotterup for Atlanta. Mark's spot on with Jupe Links. They need an upgrade. They got to reach into the fountain of youth. I mean, there's got to be so many options, I would think. Maybe give Jake Knapp a call. Maybe
Brooks Koepka.
Maybe Brooks Koepka, right? That would make sense. They need an upgrade.
Well, they're going to try to pull a fast one over on Atlanta Drive Monday at 5 p.m. Eastern time. And then, of course, that will turn right into Phoenix Open Week, Super Bowl week. Just an absolute great week for all sporting fandom. Gentlemen, before I get you out of here and we do it all again on Tuesday, any final thoughts before I shut us down?
Well, I'd like to say the coverage on CBS was great. So good on you and your team, Mark. That was fantastic. I think those are really hard weeks to cover sometimes when you have a runaway train and you knew this thing was over before you even got the ball. It was over on Friday, it felt like, and I thought it was really well covered. So good job by the CBS coverage team.
Thank you, Greg. That's kind. When I got to San Diego Thursday morning, and you see everyone from the utilities to the production people to your fellow announcers, it felt like it was Thanksgiving, and everyone was coming back together, and the vibe was high, and I have a sense, because everyone was like, well, CBS had such a big year ratings-wise last year and stuff, and all they can do is regress. I felt like Johnson Wagner made a real difference. He's fit into the team like a hand in glove, and kudos to Colt who took on, Ian Baker Finch was like our drumbeat. He was someone you were always going to rely on, so solid and sounds so good. And Colt did a great job. So it's off and running, and we've only got 22 more events until the end of the season.
22 more and each of the next 3. So have fun, enjoy it. You'll be out on the road, but we're going to do it as well. Tuesdays and Fridays and Sundays, and maybe we'll throw in some Thursdays and Saturdays along the way. Big thanks to producer Mina. She does all the hard work behind the scenes. Greg DuCharme, Mark Immelman, I'm Rick Gehman. This is The Second Cut. We'll catch you next time.